The 2017 Royal Rumble is now in the rearview mirror. Is WWE where they want to be on the road to WrestleMania? Find out today on the Dr. Wrestling Podcast. Hello everyone and welcome to the next edition of the Dr. Wrestling Podcast. I'll be your host, Barry Johnson, and today we're going to be talking about the 2017 Royal Rumble, WWE's 30th presentation of the Royal Rumble event, including both title matches, non-title matches, and the Royal Rumble Battle Royal itself. We're going to be talking about the results, what happened, what didn't happen, and asking ourselves the question, is WWE where they want to be positioned for the road to WrestleMania, their biggest show of the year coming up in just a couple of months. So let's get into it. WWE put on a 6-hour presentation for the folks in San Antonio, Texas, starting with a 2-hour pre-show and the 4-hour actual pay-per-view itself. The matches that took place on the pre-show were very good and, of course, had every merit to be on the pay-per-view itself, but WWE chose them to help tease prospective buyers for the pay-per-view and subscribers for the network into seeing these matches and deciding whether they wanted to take that next step. So I applaud the effort of everyone involved in the pre-show because obviously they did a great job. The Six Ladies Tag Team match served its purpose, got some exposure and got the spots in for the ladies involved. I was a little bit disappointed not to see Alexa Bliss defend her title probably against Becky Lynch, the former champion. But this gave more exposure to more stars on the ladies' side on SmackDown. So I think it was a good match for what it was. Cesaro and Sheamus defending their Raw Tag Team titles unsuccessfully against Gallows and Anderson. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson did a great job. Cesaro and Sheamus, as always, told a great story with their match and teased yet again the stress between the two of them. I think it was just a matter of time until these guys lost those belts, and they seem like transitional champions to me, although the storyline to get them where they are was much more interesting than I think any of us gave it a chance to be. So I think now Gallows and Anderson are in a position to probably hold on to those belts until Mania and then drop them to a face tag team, probably in a multi-team match, probably 3 or 4 teams at least, to get more faces on WrestleMania. And my hope is that they will drop those to Enzo and Cass, but we'll just have to wait and see. Great match by these 4 guys, and Gallows and Anderson are as hard as they've worked and as much as they've given on the Raw brand during their year there. They deserve the nod to get those tag belts. The best match on the pre-show, in my opinion, was Nia Jax taking on Sasha Banks. This match served all kinds of purposes. It showed that Nia is certainly a monster to be reckoned with on the Raw side of the roster. It also shows that Sasha is still a tough contender, and her durability, her tenacity is second to none. However, the continued injury, the persistence of her injury from several weeks ago in her match with Charlotte gives her a good excuse for the loss, and she does a great job selling the ragdoll approach with Nia just throwing her around the ring and having her way with her left and right. But Nia also gave her enough offense to make her still look strong and capable. So great effort on the part of both of those ladies. I see a lot of potential for Nia Jax. She has every hope of being in the women's world title picture very soon, and I think she's going to make a great challenger for Charlotte. And quite frankly, she's a great heel and foil for any face lady on the WWE roster. Now on to the pay-per-view itself. First match was the Raw Women's Champion Charlotte defending against Bayley. This match was, quite frankly, exactly what it needed to be. There was enough offense from Bayley and enough innovation to make you believe that she might take the belt from Charlotte. But there was also enough command and offense from Charlotte that her confidence shone through, and she continued her dominance on pay-per-view going forward. I'm very curious to see what WWE is going to do in the coming weeks to make us believe that Bayley is still a viable contender for Charlotte's belt. And obviously, both of them are going to be part of the picture headed into WrestleMania, which we'll get a little bit more into later. Next up was Kevin Owens, KO, defending his WWE Universal Championship against Roman Reigns. I've said this before, and I am definitely not going to sugarcoat it today. I saw entirely too much of Reigns on my television screen. I am not a fan of Reigns. I am very anti-Roman Reigns. This match was an excellent microcosm to exactly show why I'm right about not liking Reigns. Sorry to all those fans out there who do like him. I know there are a few of you, but I think there's more folks on my side of the argument to say he doesn't belong on the roster. Owens worked his butt off to sell for Reigns between the spot off the apron and into the chairs or through the table. He was selling like crazy to put Reigns over as a believable contender. And quite frankly, I was surprised, not because of what happened in the ring, but just because of politics, that Owens actually walked out with a belt at the end of the match. I was fully expecting Reigns to take it and carry it into WrestleMania, both because they seem to have some ridiculous belief in Reigns as the next John Cena, the next super athlete to lead them into the next generation, and because I expected Owens to be free of the belt for his feud with Jericho that seems to be pending, that certainly makes sense to culminate at WrestleMania. The simple fact is, as much as Owens and Jericho have worked to preserve Owens' title, that title is not needed for that feud. Those two guys put on such an entertaining show every single week, every appearance they make on WWE programming. There's no reason that the two of them need a title belt at stake for the fans to care about the outcome of that match. Owens did an amazing job, put himself in danger with some of those bumps to put Reigns over. I was very disappointed to see how much KO had to work to achieve that. Quite frankly, I consider Reigns to be an overinflated, far overrated action figure come to life, and I realize that's exactly what Vince McMahon thinks the fans want to see, but in this case, it's not. It's absolutely not. So after KO, almost unconscious, makes out with his championship belt, after Jericho did a great job selling for Owens and delivering some added drama to that match from the shark cage above without ever having a physical impact on the match, I think they did a good job bringing Strowman in to interfere in the match and cost Reigns his championship, obviously setting up some storylines for later on. I also wonder if it occurred to them that they may very well in a single action turn Strowman face just because he came in and tried to break Roman Reigns. I think more than a few of us were probably out there wishing we could be Braun Strowman at that moment. Next segment was the return of the tumbler that contains all the numbers for the order of entry for the Royal Rumble. This, of course, portrays the order of entry for the Rumble to be random at the luck of the draw, which we, of course, all know that's not really the case, and that the structure of the Rumble itself is very carefully planned. But I have to say the funniest moment of the night had to go to Dean Ambrose. Sami Zayn did not want to open his entry into the Rumble, so Ambrose was willing to do it for him. He opened it and said, 8. No, wait, it's upside down. 8. You got to love the humor, the wit, the sarcasm that Dean Ambrose brings to the ring, and really happy to see him continuing to get a push in WWE. He can be overexposed at times because they had to lean so hard on him, but a guy like him on your screen is always going to be entertaining, and I think it's just a pure natural instinct on his part. I have to question, whenever I heard the call for the Cruiserweight title match next, This may have been a political move to try to emphasize the importance of the Cruiserweight title, but I'm an old school enough fan that I believe that world titles or titles of that status, such as the Universal title, should be defended as late in the show as possible, and that nothing should go on after that that's not at least as important as a world title or a belt of that status. That said, they may be trying to portray the Cruiserweight title as being as important as the Universal title, and if that's the case, this is one way to do it. Having the title on the class of competitor that they have right now, that's a good step in the right direction. But I don't think it's had an opportunity to earn that reputation yet. So, as an old school fan, I was a little bit upset that they decided to put the Cruiserweight title match on after the Universal title match. That said, I'm sure there was another reason that might have been a factor in it. And it could just be that one of the two guys in the Universal title match might have been going to make another appearance later in the show. Since that's probably not Kevin Owens, that kind of narrows things down to Roman Reigns. So guess who we get to look forward to seeing in the Rumble? Yay! Rich Swann and Neville put on a classic match. A very good structure. They told a good story. There was enough storyline walking into this with them having traveled down the road before and Neville's heel turn being so fresh and recent that it makes it look like Neville turned his back on his former friend and was now challenging him to try to take his title and become officially the king of the Cruiserweights. Neville, of course, continues to impress at every turn, as did Swann. But some of the tiny elements from this match are the kind of things that everybody on the roster should be paying attention to. For example, when Neville came to the ring, he dove into the ring as he normally does as part of his entrance, and he started to go for the corner post to stand and solicit cheers from the crowd. But he stopped himself. He let everyone see that moment happen because it shows the conflict within him, that he doesn't really want to be the person that he's having to be right now, but he knows he's having to resist that urge to be the good guy, to be the person that the fans want, because it didn't get him where he needed to be. He's choosing to be the bad guy because it's what he thinks will make him successful. And so far, he's been right. But I think that's a small thing about his character that really came off as important in the match to set the tone and establish his character in the context of this match. Another small thing that really impressed me was after the big splash by Swann off the ropes, Neville not only kicked out, but he flipped himself over onto his stomach. There's absolutely no doubt that was a clear kick out, but that amount of effort on Neville's part for such a small thing, such a small element in the story itself, speaks volumes about how hard he works to tell the story that needs to be told in that ring. It's just that much more effort that Neville puts forth, and there are a lot of people on the main roster, many of whom are substantially higher than him on the ladder, on the hierarchy in the company, who should pay attention to that kind of work ethic because they could use a little more of it themselves. Also, amazing power by Neville to deadlift Swann completely off the mat at one point and turn it into a pretty interesting move. His, not just his physique, but his power and his athleticism all the way around is always top-notch, and he just continues to set new standards for action in the ring while maintaining that physique. It's just so impressive to watch him in the ring all the way around, and I'm so happy to see that he won the Cruiserweight title. I think he's going to be a great representative and will do a wonderful job helping build some new stars, because what that division needs more than anything is some faces. Another thing I want to make sure and mention at this point is Corey Graves did a wonderful job in this match, as he always does. But Corey had his wit, his sarcasm, his conflict with his fellow announcers. He is, in my opinion, by far the best heel announcer in WWE right now, probably in all of American wrestling. And quite frankly, if he keeps this up, he's going to be the best heel announcer since Jesse Body Ventura. He's got it in him. He understands the business from on the mat and behind the mic. And for someone who's been on that side of it for such a short time, he is doing an absolutely amazing job. We're going to take a short break and be right back. You're listening to the Dr. Wrestling Podcast. I want to take a moment and say thank you to one of our sponsors, Silverworks.net. Silverworks produces handmade, one-of-a-kind, unique jewelry, silver, copper, and brass. Every piece handmade by the artist. There's something there for everybody on your list, so give them a look. Silverworks.net. That's SILVERWERKS.net. Silverworks. Uncommon goods. All right, we're back on the Dr. Wrestling Podcast talking about the Royal Rumble 2017. The next matchup is AJ Styles defending the WWE Championship against John Cena. Again, as an old school fan, it really gets under my skin whenever I see things happen in non-traditional ways for no apparent reason. Why did AJ Styles come out first in this match? Why was he introduced first? Cena was not the champion. Styles was. Cena may be the bigger name and in some people's eyes a more popular star, but if you look at the merchandise sales and you look at the pay-per-view buy rates in the last year, I don't think anybody is anywhere near where Styles is that's anywhere close to one of these titles. So the way I see it, Styles had every right to come out second. He should have, as a sign of respect to him and everything that he's done since he's had that belt and been in WWE for the last year. Also, I really hope that David Otunga has now seen his last pay-per-view, his last appearance on television. He seems like a very nice guy. He seems like a very smart guy. He is not a very good announcer. I'm really starting to wonder if he's only there to make JBL look less bad, to sound like he might know what he's talking about relative to what Otunga brings to the ring. If they want Otunga to get some experience, put him on Superstars or Main Event. Put him on NXT if you have to. I don't really want to subject fans to that either. But this guy is not ready for prime time, and the fact that you have to have 4 people at that table to cover SmackDown properly means he's not pulling his weight. Get rid of him. Cena and Styles obviously put on an amazing match. It's the third in their series, and without question, it was as good as either of the others. Cena worked really hard. I understand that. And at times, his frustration level was depicted so well that I was questioning whether he might be about to perform a heel turn. We might actually see a switch from him. And it also, because of the cheers that AJ so consistently gets, not just against Cena, but with everyone else, I was wondering if we might be seeing a double turn happen. I'm sure the two of them will not face off at WrestleMania, but if it were to happen, I think that would be a great point for that double turn to happen. Cena was credited by the announcers for performing an amazingly high backdrop and for the flip powerbomb move that he performed, which was effectively a ripoff of Petey Williams' Canadian Destroyer. The announcers were carrying on about how this was such unusual precedent for Cena to use these moves, and I really wish the business were transparent enough that people could just say, "Oh, wait a minute, that's because only AJ Styles can pull these moves off. Only AJ Styles can deliver those moves. It's about AJ. It's not about Cena." But fans that have understood the business and have followed the business for a long time understand that this kind of move does not work with just one guy. It takes both of them working in coordination and doing their job really, really well for this kind of move to come off without anybody getting hurt. So kudos to both guys, particularly AJ. It was obvious through this match, in my opinion, that Styles was selling like a madman and working extremely hard to put Cena over as not only credible but strong, very physically capable, and as hard a worker as anybody else on the roster. AJ sells like nobody's business. He is the best at it on the SmackDown roster, in my opinion, and at this point, I feel like most of what's being done for Cena is a nod from the McMahons to say thank you for how hard he has worked for the company across the years. It doesn't really, in my mind, excuse the way that AJ is getting treated as the title came off him, but at the same time, there's certainly a lot to be said for everything Cena's contributed, and this was a practical way to demonstrate that. Cena ended up winning this match and became a 16-time WWE World Champion. tying the official record set by Ric Flair, a mark that no one else has ever touched. I know that Flair has come out publicly stating that he is in support of Cena getting this much of a win and achieving this mark. I personally don't think Cena is half the wrestler that Ric Flair was, performer, talker, any aspect of it. But it is what it is. We are at this point. I don't know how much of this was Cena's idea versus WWE's idea, but I will say that Triple H has been in position and much more logically powerful to achieve that mark long before Cena had a chance to do that. And Triple H has never seen fit to do it because he understands it's better for business and better to respect the legacy that Ric Flair left behind rather than achieve that accolade on his own. Triple H didn't need it. 14 times is enough for him. If he ends up getting another one somewhere along the way, fine. But he didn't see it necessary to eclipse or tie Flair's record. And I don't really understand why they needed it for Cena either. If they're that desperate for ideas of how to use Cena, maybe that should tell them something. Either they got bad writers or they got the wrong guy featured at the top of the card. And of course, being the class act that he is, as soon as AJ lost the match, he ducks out, gets out of the way, and lets Cena have the full stage to enjoy his and celebrate his win. That's the kind of professional that AJ is, and that's how this match went. Next up is the Royal Rumble itself. I won't go through every entry to say who came in at what number and all the details of what I think was right or wrong about that. I will have a few comments about a couple of those points, but by and large, I found this to be a very lackluster Royal Rumble, especially when WWE spent so much time beating it into our heads that we need to remember the Rumble. I understand it's in San Antonio. I understand the reference to the Alamo. I just don't really think this was all that memorable, a Rumble itself. For example, there was one main roster debut, one out of all 30 participants. And I like Dillinger. Don't get me wrong. Ty Dillinger is a good wrestler, and him coming in at number 10, perfect 10, was very appropriate. I thought he made a good showing, but as usual, those new entries are not going to be people who end up winning the match. Certainly wasn't the case this time. I do believe that the Rumble itself was structured pretty well as far as the order of entry for most of the participants. They told pretty decent stories, furthered a few things, teased a few possible feuds or interactions that wanted to test the waters with the fans to see if they would bite and support it. I thought they leaned way, way too much on old school names, on people that have been around the company for a long time. For a company that seems to try to sell so hard that they're pushing new talent and promoting new names and trying to keep fresh blood coming into the company, I do not understand why we saw so much of John Cena, Bill Goldberg, The Undertaker, and Brock Lesnar on this show. The only welcome face that saw a lot of screen time, in my opinion, was Chris Jericho, because I think he did a wonderful job in the Rumble itself, in addition to his supporting role with Kevin Owens' match. But Jericho came in very early in the Rumble, hung around, played a part in it, and he's a trusty, reliable hand to know what he's doing in there and to put other people over when the time is right. When it came down to the ending of the match, after The Undertaker was eliminated, you're left with four guys in the ring: Reigns, Orton, Wyatt, and Jericho. I was really hopeful that Jericho was actually going to walk out of it with the win, because I thought it would be a good way for them to get him opposite Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. The one person I didn't see at that point having much of any chance of winning the thing was Randy Orton. Well, they surprised me. I was, of course, I can't tell you how happy I was that Roman Reigns did not win the match, and I would have been quite happy for anyone else besides him to take it. But I have to say, I think it's incredibly wasteful to give a second Royal Rumble win to Randy Orton at this point in the process. I don't understand where they're going with it. I have heard rumors that Bray Wyatt may end up with a world title before the year is out, and I can understand that Possibly putting the belt on Orton as an intermediary step might be a good process to get the belt onto Wyatt. But the Rumble is a very special, winning the Rumble is a special achievement in WWE, and I think it's something that far too often is bestowed upon an established star who doesn't need it. I think this was an excellent example of why would you waste it on an established star like Orton, because it doesn't really help him. Seeing him standing there pointing at the WrestleMania sign was far better than seeing Roman Reigns do it. But there are so many more deserving people, including one that was standing right there in the match, Bray Wyatt, who would have benefited from it so much more. I liken this to something that was an even greater achievement, in my opinion, that was absolutely wasted several years ago at WrestleMania. I thought it accomplished extremely little to give Brock Lesnar the honor of breaking The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania. It didn't help Lesnar very much. It certainly hurt Taker. But if they wanted to give that to someone to help bolster a career, to help establish a star, to help build a legend even further, do it with someone who was positioned to be helped by it, not someone that it just rolled off the back of. Yes, they still continue to mention that Lesnar took the streak from Taker, but it didn't really make him any more of a monster than he already was, in my opinion. In this same case, I don't feel like it helped Orton's character at all, and quite frankly, within a month or two, unless the announcers keep reminding us of it, no one will remember who won the Rumble this year, because it wasn't important, it wasn't meaningful. I find it very disappointing that that's what they decided to do. And for all of those reasons, I find the whole premise of advertising and beating us down with "Remember the Rumble" to be very contradictory, because they gave us very, very little to actually remember during this Royal Rumble match. I don't understand where they're going with some of the matchups that came out of this, some of the feuds that they might be setting up, but overall, I have to say it was not one of the better Royal Rumbles, but it was an entertaining match, and it did serve as the focal point for the entire show. We're going to take a break and be right back. I want to take a moment and send a shout out to our friends Keith and Kevin Davis and thank them for the use of their song Bounce, which you hear at the beginning and ending of each podcast. Thanks, guys. All right, folks, it's diagnosis time. Let's talk about how WWE walked out of Royal Rumble 2017 and where they stand on the road to WrestleMania now that all this has started and we're headed in a big hurry towards the biggest show of the year. They've got several feuds positioned that could work out to be really good at Mania. They've got some others that seem to be on track for no apparent reason, and I don't think they're going to be that much of a draw. But hey, what do I know? I've only been doing this for 30 years. So, I understand that Big Show and Shaquille O'Neal, yes, the basketball player, have a match planned for WrestleMania. Big Show looked absolutely awesome during his appearance on Raw last week, and his appearance in the Rumble itself, the match itself, I thought he looked great. He's in better physical shape than we've seen him in a very, very long time, and I'm really happy for him and proud of him for all the work he's put in to achieve this. I just hope Shaq is taking it seriously as well, because he's definitely got some work to do on that front as well. I hope for once, especially if this might be Show's last WrestleMania, that for once they might see fit to let the wrestler who's given so much of himself across decades with WWE might be given the chance to have a win at WrestleMania, as opposed to selling to whomever they might put him in the ring with. I feel like they've got a possibility of a good match between Owens and Jericho. Whether the Universal title is on the line or not, I don't think it matters a whole lot. I think it would be ideal if Jericho accidentally or deliberately caused Owens to lose that belt, because Owens did something mean to him. Jericho, everyone wants to cheer for Jericho as it is, so him being the face in that matchup, I think makes a whole lot of sense. And his U.S. title reign, I think they could easily switch that belt to somebody else, and we wouldn't really think any less of Jericho for it. They certainly seem to be building toward Reigns challenging The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I don't personally see a lot of value in that because Taker's got nothing to benefit from in that match, and all I can see happening is that he would do the job to Reigns, someone who absolutely does not deserve the accolade that would provide. I think that's a large waste of The Undertaker's time and effort when he could give that same nod to any of a dozen different wrestlers on the roster who are ready for that kind of elevation. Reigns is not. I certainly see Cena defending his title at WrestleMania. Probably not against AJ Styles, although that would be an excellent use of the both of them. I have a feeling he'll end up taking on someone else from the SmackDown roster or a legend coming back. I would be disappointed if that's what happened, but this may be Cena's swan song, at least for a while in WWE, so let him have his belt and run with it for a while. Unfortunately, my understanding about their plans for AJ Styles is that he will end up facing Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. Don't get me wrong, I like Shane O'Mac. I think he puts on entertaining matches, and he works extremely hard to put over whoever he's fighting. He loves daredevil tactics, and sooner or later those are going to come back and bite him, in my opinion. But I think it's a tremendous waste to put AJ Styles in the ring with Shane simply because AJ could tear the house down with a whole bunch of other guys on the roster. And it's, in my opinion, mostly a waste to put him in there against Shane because they're not going to put on a technical spectacle. It's not Shane's fault that he's not that kind of wrestler, but it is WWE's fault if they put the two of them in there together and expect it to be memorable beyond some crazy stunt that Shane decides to pull. I thought The Miz represented himself well, and I think him and Ambrose continuing the feud until WrestleMania makes sense. I could see that end up being maybe a ladder match or a bunch of guys in there fighting for the Intercontinental title, which has become somewhat of a tradition at WrestleMania. I think both the Raw and SmackDown tag team titles will be defended in probably 4-way or 6-way matches at WrestleMania to get a lot of people on the card once again, which I applaud on WWE's part. I respect that. I think American Alpha's doing just fine where they are. I don't think they have much of a feud going, and I would love to see the Vaudevillains elevated and maybe be given a title run. But right now, American Alpha's doing fine, and I hope they'll continue their reign for a while. On the Raw side of things, I'd love to see Enzo and Cass end up with those belts and hopefully have a good face run. And I'd love to see them turn the New Day heel in short order just to freshen up their gimmick a little bit. I think there's a lot of good possibilities coming out of this, but I also feel like WWE shot themselves in the foot because it feels like they only pushed the stars that they feel like they've made, that Vince himself feels like he's made, people that have been out of the limelight long enough that he brought them back or that he made stars in the first place. Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, John Cena. I don't understand why this sudden shift occurred from pushing talent that people are responding to instead pushing the nostalgic talent. I am a very big fan of nostalgia in professional wrestling. I'm someone who watches a lot of old footage, and I wear out the WWE Network for content. Trust me, I do. If a pay-per-view occurred in the 1980s or the 2010s, I'm just as likely to watch the old as the new. But I don't think that pushing those guys at the top makes a lot of sense right now. There was a time when their roster was so thin that they needed the star power that some of those guys bring to the table. Right now they have such a deep and vast roster that I do not understand the value in putting exclusive matches with those guys up there. Is Lesnar versus Goldberg a draw? Yes, of course it is. They sell a lot of pay-per-views because of that and a lot of subscriptions to the network. I get that. But you don't have to put those guys over as your champions. They don't need belts for those matches to mean something. My understanding right now is that Owens is probably going to drop his belt, the Universal title, to Goldberg at the Fastlane pay-per-view coming up in a few weeks, and then go into Mania defending that belt against Brock Lesnar. Goldberg doesn't need that belt any more than Lesnar does. Neither one of them needs it. They could use that belt to help out some other star, to elevate them. That's what those belts are for. They're not just accessories. They are tools. I'm excited to see what matchups occur for Mania. There's always some surprises in that, and there's usually some bad surprises, in my opinion, where somebody seemed to be smoking something when they dreamt it up. I have a feeling AJ Styles is going to end up being the victim of one of those matchups, but the simple fact is they've got some good possibilities ahead of them that I hope they'll follow through on. Now, on Monday night, following Raw, we saw the debut of someone who, in my opinion, should have been in Rumble. He should have been, if nothing else, number 30 in the Rumble. That was Samoa Joe. I do not understand the logic of having number 30, a coveted spot, go to Roman Reigns. I find it appalling that just 1 year ago, the powers that be, Stephanie and Triple H, decided they wanted to force Reigns in at number 1, Triple H come out at number 30, make Reigns try to defend against 29 other guys to keep his title, and then have Triple H come in at the end and take it away from him. Obviously, the people in power can manipulate the order of entry to the Rumble. Yet this year, 1 year later, when he is in no more favor with those same powers that be than he ever was, why does he come hobbling out at number 30 to put on this little finish that they did? It does not make any sense to me. It completely contradicts all the logic that they put forth in the last year, and I realize maybe this is one of those cases where we're supposed to overlook that. But when you're suspending disbelief, you're still trying to find some sort of reason and structure inside that world, inside the bubble that I referred to in one of my previous shows. This one was one that made no sense to me. If you just have to throw Reigns into the mix instead of giving that spot to someone else on the roster who might be more deserving of it, never mind debuting a new star and helping build one, at least have someone beat him down and help build a star out of it. But bringing Reigns in at number 30, contradicting all the logic of what they've been presenting on storyline, makes absolutely no sense and seemed like an unbelievably tremendous waste to me. Samoa Joe and Seth Rollins did put on a very entertaining angle at the end of the show with Triple H at the helm, pardon the pun, but it does seem that either prior to that, explaining his absence from the Rumble, or during that segment, Seth Rollins' knee was re-injured, and he may be out for a while, possibly even missing WrestleMania. I don't want to see that. That's unfortunate. Never want to see anybody get injured. Obviously, his knee is going to be more fragile now than it was before it was injured in the first place, and I've watched that footage several times, and I've never seen anything that made me think Joe did anything deliberate or reckless. Joe simply wrestles a stiff style, and Rollins was ragdolling at that point, so this kind of thing happens sometimes. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. They may turn around and have Joe feud with Triple H. They may send Joe over to SmackDown to fulfill what I understand was the original plan for him, which was for him to come in and have a shot to do something his buddy AJ Styles was doing quite well, which is beat up John Cena. I would love to see that myself, and just an opportunity to have AJ and Joe on the same side against Cena on the main roster, even if it's just for a tag match main event on SmackDown, would be an amazing bit of nostalgia. But I know Joe will make a big impact wherever he ends up. That's not a TNA pun. But I would really like to see him put to better use, and I hope that they have a prominent plan figured out for him for WrestleMania and for the rest of 2017, because I know he can really help put some people over and sell as a monster comparable to anybody else on their roster right now, even Braun Strowman. Please don't saddle him with Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. All right, folks, that's about it for our coverage of the 2017 Royal Rumble. Please do pay us a visit at drwrestling.com. Provide us your feedback on this and all of our previous shows. Your thoughts on the Rumble itself, what you thought was good, what you thought was bad, where you think I'm wrong about what happened in the match, and where you think things might be going for WrestleMania. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Please do subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, on Google Play Music for you Android fans out there, or on YouTube for the video version of each of our podcasts. We will hopefully be back very soon with another episode, and in the meantime, I'll give you my prescription for a couple of Royal Rumble related videos to go check out. If you have the WWE Network subscription available to you, I highly recommend it. Definitely go out and subscribe to the network, try out that free month, and take advantage of the pay-per-views, the ridiculously extensive library, 6,000 plus hours. Basically everything that's ever been on pay-per-view is out there of any prominence in the United States. You've got so much content from WCW, even some of the NWA shows. ECW, world class, global. There's just so much. Never mind all the full WWE history, AWA, weekly television programming as well. It's just so much that you can learn from and enjoy out there. But my suggestions for you this week are to watch the 1990 Royal Rumble and the 1992 Royal Rumble. And obviously both of those events are available in their entirety on the WWE Network. In 1990, WWE was building the feud between Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. It wasn't a feud at this point quite yet, but they ended up being the last two in the ring, and fans went absolutely berserk to see the two of them face off. There's a lot of drama there. Not a big Hogan fan, as you know, but they actually did a great job in there and built towards WrestleMania 6 and a main event that set a new standard, in my opinion, for crowd involvement, if not technical wrestling capabilities. Next is, in my opinion, the standard bearer for Royal Rumble matches, and that was the 1992 Rumble. Ric Flair entered at number 3 and left the WWF World Champion. He wrestled an amazing match throughout the entire show, told several stories with people he had never even been in the ring with before, as far as I know, which is saying something for Ric Flair. But he did a great job with everybody involved, and the ending was sold extremely well. His interview after the fact was just on a different level, and he worked so hard and established a different standard for the work rate that could occur in the Rumble, and what we could expect as fans to be possible out of a Royal Rumble match. So they call that Ric Flair's Hour of Power for a reason. Go check it out. If you don't have access to the WWE Network where you are, I will provide some links in the description where you can go check out some, at least clips of the Rumbles I'm describing here, and I highly encourage you to go check them out. I think you'll really enjoy it. Like I said, please pay us a visit at drwrestling.com. Give us your feedback, subscribe to the podcast, and we'll be back with you with another episode again very soon. So until then, take care, and thanks for listening. Thanks again for listening to the Dr. Wrestling Podcast, and just remember, keep watching and keep believing. It doesn't have to be real, it just has to mean something. Good night, everybody.